It's Friday night, 5 o'clock Pacific time, January 15th, 2021. Time for another episode of Erik Wait Live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Mike Bennett is in the house. Silverlock Whiskey Club. Michael C. 2019. I saw another Taste and Sensibility. And some others will be tuning in just shortly. Alrighty, so tonight's going to be a little bit different. Previous live streams, what I've been doing is focusing on peat and comparing Highland peat with Islay peat. And that's been sort of the main thrust of what I've been doing. Today, and rather than going Highland versus Islay, and I'll do more of that in the future as I move along through this semester of Highland peated whiskeys. But in this episode, I'm going to focus mostly just on one particular distillery, namely Talisker. But before I get into that, being a whiskey tuber is a little weird because we're just dudes, or there's some ladies as well. Ladies coming along as well. We're just people, and we have regular jobs. We're not doing this full time. We just go about doing our thing, whatever. And one of the strangest experiences of being a whiskey tuber is being recognized in the public. Of course, now I'm coming up on 10,000 subscribers, so increasing odds that I'm going to run into people who gonna know me. But I've traveled around in airports in Glasgow, in Texas, in California, in Colorado. People says, "Hey, aren't you Erik Wait?" And you feel kind of weird because it's not like we're not a TV actor or a talk show host. We're not a rock star. We're not anybody's famous. We're just some YouTuber, and so to be recognized is kind of strange. But it's also been really, really cool. Today, a local here who recognized me and was watching before an early episode, I made a comment, and he went and bought me something. Then he contacted me, said he had something for me. I was like, well, gee, I wonder what it could be. And here it is. I guess, I don't know, it was either last week or the week before. Hey, Michael Hassler, thank you for tuning in. I had mentioned, I remember I had two different whiskeys, and one was darker than the other. I said it wouldn't do. Oh, I know. It was the Lechic 10 and the Ardbeg 10. And I mentioned that it wouldn't be really do any good to blind taste them side by side because their color was so distinctive, different between the two, right? The Lechic 10 was darker, particularly this particular bottling of Lechic 10. Some earlier Lechic 10 seemed to be lighter in color and versus Ardbeg 10. So just visually, you'd be able to tell the difference. So what he gave me was he ordered 2 Glencairns for blind tasting and gave them to me. So I've got 2 of these now. Absolutely awesome. I just got them today. Just met them today. And really, really, really cool. I was just like really, really amazed. That's so thoughtful, so amazing. And I look forward to trying these out. They are glass, just like regular Glencairns, although texturally they kind of feel slightly different. Scott and Bart, before these were released by Glencairn, and they had made their own darkened Glencairn glasses. Now you can buy them. So yeah, really, really, really cool. Really, really awesome. I thought about making Erik Wait, Glencairn glasses or something like that, but everybody, you get lots of Glencairn glasses. Right now, I'm just doing the glass, the coin thing. Anyway, good way to finish a work week, start off the weekend. Someone gives me a gift of blind tasting Glencairn. So really, really, really awesome. And if you happen to be watching this live or on the replay, again, thank you very much. Alrighty. So we're going to look into Talisker, look a little bit into the history. I took clips from different videos, put them together, so we get at least a brief look at what the place looks like. Carlos Santiago, thank you very much for tuning in. He says, thanks for the green spot. Chateau Leoville Bouton review. Got it for Christmas for my wife, and it's great, even from the neck pour. Absolutely. I'm glad you like it. I know it's made one of my top 10 for the year. For 2020, David Gashecki, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you very much for tuning in. All right, so one of the things in studying for me that I find really, really useful is something visual. Memorization and learning is about tying two things together, right? Visual with something, audio is really, really helpful. So using maps is really helpful. Now, of course, in wine, you study maps, not just to know where things are at, but the association of climate, terroir, whether it's mountains, plains, coastal, inland, whatever else is really, really important for wine. But even if the terroir isn't that important with whiskey, I find for memorization and getting a sense of place is really, really important. And studying history, studying culture, studying language, and all that is really, really important for studying whiskey. Now, I have memorized a lot of maps. My brain is like a Google map for the wine world, for the world of wine, and it's more so developing for whiskeys. So when I smell and taste a wine and where it's from, in my head, there's immediately like this Google Earth. Yeah, I love playing with Google Earth, and I can zoom in and go down to street level and all that. I love that. That's really, really, really cool. Well, the goal is for my brain to do that, so that I get a sense of place. Now, ultimately, I mean, as Google Earth is cool, and I like playing on Google Earth. Going to the place is the best. It's hard to describe. There are some places, and just being in Scotland, love Scotland, just gives you a sense of place and being there, meeting the people. And it almost, when you watch on videos and pictures and whatever, and then you're there for real and it's 3-dimensional rather than 2-dimensional, it just gives it a whole other element that I really like. Well, I'm going to bring up a map here real quick. Hey, Jason, Mash and Drum, thank you much for tuning in, man. It's good seeing you last night on the Scotch for Dummies. Scotch for Dummies just kicked over like 26,000 subscribers, and they had sort of a delayed 5-year anniversary. They had a great live stream last night. Roy Aquavite was on there. Scott from Scotch Testament was on there. Jason was on there. Rob from Whiskey and Six was on there. It was really, really great. All right, so I'm going to bring up a map. Now, the map on the right is the overall map of Scotland. I have a large poster of this in my office at work. So it's like, even if you just take 30 seconds to stare at it, but you do it throughout the day, you look at it, you look at it, you look at it, you get in a conversation with someone, you look at, oh, I've been here, you look at it and you look at it and you go, okay, this is over here. You drinking a bottle of whiskey, you open it up and it tells you, and where they're located. Take a map. Okay, where is Old Pulteney? Where is Ardbeg? Where is this distillery? So engage with maps. Excuse me, I just got allergies. I don't have the vid. So engage with maps, and I think it'll really help more and more get this association between what you're drinking and where it's from, and play around with Google Earth. I really like using it. So the map on the left is a little bit more of a zoomed in picture of the islands. The only place, generally speaking, I haven't been to is the northwestern islands of Scotland. And I was planning on going to Scotland this year. I don't. Doesn't look like things are going to change right away, so I kind of doubt that I will. But here is a map of the Western Islands. So I've been over to Islay, I've been to Arran, I haven't been to Jura. I've been all the lowlands, been up in Speyside, the Highlands, all the way up the North Highlands, been up to Orkney. But the islands where Talisker is at, I've not been in that region, and that's my goal. Is on my next trip is to go up there and visit distilleries. Now the distilleries are, I would say, much more sparse than they are, say, in Speyside. Speyside, there's like 40 to 50 distilleries, very concentrated in a local area, so you can kind of stay in one place and hit a lot of them. Going up into these northern islands is going to be more of things spread out. So I might do it. You can rent like a mobile home, van, camper kind of a thing, and do it that way. And we kind of take more of a view of the landscape, the seaside, the hills, and all that. All right. So if you notice, there's almost smack dab in the middle of the map on the left, we have the Isle of Skye, and then smack dab in the middle of that is Talisker, the distiller we're looking at today. Now, of course, to travel on all these islands all over the place, you would need to catch a ferry. There are ferries that'll take you all over there. All righty, so that's where we're at. We're on the Isle of Skye. at Talisker. So, if I know not everybody can travel, I've been very, very, very blessed to be able to travel and to go different places. It's expensive, it takes a lot of time, and now with this COVID crap, it's hard to get out. In fact, the Scotch for Dummies, they were planning on going. They had this big trip planned and all this, and I was planning on going to Ireland and then go over to Scotland. And I'm kind of holding my breath, waiting to get back there. But I want to at least make 1 or 2 more trips back to Scotland, if not more. I'd like to return to Islay. Anyway, if you can't actually go there, you got kids, money, time, whatever it is that's holding you back. The next thing you can do, something I really enjoy doing, is watching movies, videos, and get a sense of the place. So I put together a little video clip. It's about a minute long, just to at least give us a little glimpse of what the place looks like on the Isle of Skye and Talisker Distillery. And you're going to see like a little van. It's probably one of those tourist vans. But what I'm thinking of is, just as you see this van go through this video, instead I would rent a van that I can't pronounce saying. There is a YouTuber. His channel's called Urban Van Life. And he's in the UK, and I've watched a number of his videos. And he has actually traveled up here. He shot video of while he was up there. Really, really, really cool. He's a subscriber to this channel, by the way. And I subscribe to his channel. And right now he's working mostly on doing van building and how to teach van and tips on van building, stuff like that. Since the COVID, there's a little bit of a hindrance on traveling. But he's got some really, really cool videos on traveling up in Scotland. I believe he lives in England, but he's been traveling in Scotland. All right, so let's check out this video. And as you're drinking something, let's imagine that we're going there. Alrighty. So one of the funny thing is, if you look at the advertising and so forth, is they say the whiskey from the sea, or the distillery by the sea, as if it's somehow unique, distinctive of Talisker Distillery. If you take a look at a map and you go around the edges around Scotland, there are a lot of distilleries by the sea. Every distillery on Islay is by the sea. Jura is by the sea. Campbellton is, the distilleries in Campbellton are by the sea. Old Pulteney's by the sea. Orkney's by the sea. Glengarry's by the sea. Glenmorangie is by the sea. They're all by the, distilled by the sea, but not aged by the sea. Yeah. Hey, Dustin, how you doing, man? So they're all by this. They're all by the sea, man. Now there are, of course, there are plenty of inland one. Dalwhinnie is inland, and Auchentoshan is inland, and Macallan is inland, and there are plenty of inland distilleries. But there's a lot of them by the sea as well. So I just kind of funny, Now he says now Dustin says distilled by the sea, but not aged by the sea. But if you have Talisker, try it. You notice those dolphins that are jumping in the water. If you take a swift, I get a little bit of dolphin in the Talisker. I get just a little bit of dolphin in the Talisker. Hey, don't get political on me, man. All righty. So the whiskeys I have, and I opened these about a half an hour before going live. So I've already reviewed. This is just a phenomenal whiskey. If you haven't seen the review, check it out. This is the Distiller's Edition 2019. Love this whiskey. I almost felt like I should have not done that review till like just before Valentine's Day, kind of the theme of love, a Bica and Amoroso. By the way, so Amaro is an Italian bitter. Amore is love. There are some there could be some common etymological roots between those two. I don't know. And Amarone may actually refer to a quote-unquote bitter wine as opposed to a sweeter wine. Although if you've had Amarone, there is some sweetness in there, but very, very, very tannic and high in alcohol. Anyway, we get off on the wine. So I've already reviewed this one. Absolutely fantastic. So this bottle is part of this gift set. And I mentioned toward the end of the video, kind of threw it in there, talked about this gift set. I got this for like $55. And it's got the 10-year-old. It's got the Distiller's Edition, and it's got another bottle, and we'll get into notes on this, of the 57 North. It was 57 AB cask strength. So here is another. This is the same thing as this. So I don't need to open this. Thought about buying a full bottle of the 10-year-old, and I probably will eventually after I like this one. This one is a little bit challenging to get, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So when I first started doing the whiskey reviews, I would have little tiny bottles. This is actually a cognac or an Armagnac cognac. So I get these little tiny mini bottles, the 50 CLs, about 104 of them, most of them shipped over from the UK. And I thought, okay, here's an inexpensive way to try a lot of different whiskeys, to get a lot of different experience without having spending, $15,000 on bottles of whiskeys. As I went along in my whiskey journey and started buying full bottles, I started noticing, and you've probably heard me saying this before, you've been listening to it for a while, the progression of a whiskey as you work through the bottle. So now, if you watch my videos, I don't review a whiskey until I get it to at least about here. Roy doesn't review it until he's emptied the bottle. He's standing out there the recycling bin, right? doing that one after he's already finished the bottle. Just for maybe a drop or two that he drinks right there at the dumpster. So these are larger than the 50 CL. These are 200 mLs. So I've already poured myself some. So this is the 10, and this is the 57 North. And there's still, plenty in there. So you're probably getting, of this size, maybe three, at least three, maybe a little bit more than that. So I think you're getting a good progression, particularly as if you let this open up a little bit. So I think it's a good compromise. Yeah. Justin says 200 mils are pretty nice for sampling multiple bottles. Right. And I wish they did more of this. But my guess is the bottling equipment, because they use a bottling line. The bottling equipment to do this is a little bit more expensive because it's very specific for these little bottles. But this would be really, really cool. Not only in terms of trying whiskeys, but in terms of mobility. You're going to go on a trip somewhere and you want to take a whiskey with you, but you don't want to carry a whole bottle with you, right? You're going to go visit somewhere for a weekend, right? You don't want to carry a whole bottle. Carry one of these. Absolutely fantastic. Now, as I mentioned in the video, around the holidays, a lot of distilleries put out these gift packs. They might come with glasses. They might come with, like a regular bottle plus a little sample bottle. A lot of distilleries do this. So and I know I'm talking about after the holidays, but so I always, I tell people. In fact, I mentioned in the comment section of some of the vaults videos. Hey, you should recommend, to people who are buying gifts, because people talk about gifts. Keep your eyes out for these, and just after the holidays, they haven't necessarily sold them all. And it's not like Christmas, Christmas ornaments and wrapping paper. Once the holidays are over, the wrapping paper and all the ornaments are going to disappear, right? Because you can't, unless they're going to have a sale, a clearance, can try to get rid of it, right? But the whiskeys can still stick around. So there's actually a local shop here in Roseville that has this one. I didn't order this one online, and I think he still got a few of these. But anyway, I think it's a fantastic way of getting in some whiskeys. All right, I'm going to put this one aside for the moment. So I also have a bottle of the Talisker 18. Hold on. Let me get this out of the way. I don't want to knock it over. All right. I also have a bottle of the Talisker 18. This review should be out on Sunday. This is a very nice whiskey, but it's not cheap. I'm not going to get into it tonight, but I just thought I'd mention it a little bit. There is one thing particularly about Talisker. I'm going to see if you guys know. Some of you guys are experienced. Hey, Trooper Henry, thank you much for tuning in. Dustin says, Regional Rody, thank you for tuning in. He says, New Jersey, just outside of New York City. His total wine is value is leader for sure. Anyway, Dustin says, last time I traveled for work, remember travel? Yeah. I wanted something for a hotel and brought a 375 of Turkey rare breed. Cool. I had to pour so much of that out. A 200 ml, yeah, a 2 ml would have been much better. I was in Texas for a week and picked up a 375 of the Joe Magnus. I got a 375 of Joe Magnus, like the original. I'm not kidding. $14. $14. Right? It's almost like just stock up on those ones. Yeah, it was a killer deal. It was gone within the week, so I didn't have to worry about that one. All right. So I'm doing these. I decided I do this tonight during a live stream rather than individual videos. Like I am with the 18 and I did the distilled edition because I understand a lot of other whiskey tubers, they can't afford to buy full bottles for everything they do, or it's more convenient, or they can join a club where you get little samples, and so they're reviewing those. That's cool. I understand that. There are some whiskey tubers, really, their review is like all neck pours, right? Again, I'm not do whatever you want. For me personally, for my own education, I find if I do a neck pour review, I have to put it in that context. This is a neck pour review, not a regular review. And so you have to kind of look in the context. And if I was doing a mini, I'd have to say, this is a mini review. Take it in that light. If I don't like it, it could be that a larger, a bottle would be better, right? I have to kind of say that about that. The 200 mLs, I'd rather have a full bottle rather than do a review of this from a regular video. So I'm just kind of putting this in the context. This is a 200 ml review. Whatever my perception is of these tonight is going to be based on one. It's not a neck pour because a neck pour would only be a spoonful, right? It's already down past the shoulder, but that's the first pour. The first pour gets you down to shoulder. It has been open now almost an hour. So I've been letting these breathe as I'm talking, and we've been doing everything else. So as I talk about it, review it, interact with it, and give my comments on, put it in that context. So but first I'm going to give you my notes on the Talisker 10 here. There we go. All right, so Talisker 10-year-old from the Isle of Skye, owned by Diageo. Oh, you know what? I forgot something. Let's go back. I wanted to cover in brief the history and production of Talisker before I get into these bottles. All right, I know. Talk. When are we going to do some drinking? Let's take a wee sip. And then we'll get into our notes. I've smelled these, but I haven't tasted them yet. This is my first time trying Talisker 10. Never had it before. It's rich. A little sweetness, but mostly dry. It's got some grip. Heavier on the toffee. Spice. Got some nice spice. It's got some backbone to it. You know, it's not flabby. But I'm going to hold off there. All right. Let's get into a little bit into the history. We'll make this quick. We'll talk a little bit about the production. All right. So this distillery goes all the way back to 1830. The distillery was founded in Carbos, Scotland. That's the name of the town on the Isle of Skye by Hugh and Kenneth MacAskill. In 1831, it was built in Carbos after a number of false starts on other sites when they acquired the lease of Talisker House from the MacLeod of MacLeod. I thought that was first a typo. Like, no, is it MacLeod of MacLeod? That doesn't make any sense, but that's what it is. 1880 to 1887, the distillery was rebuilt and extended in 1900 when a new lease for the distillery was negotiated with the chief of the Clan MacLeod in 1892. The annual payment was to be £23, 12 shillings, and a 10-gallon cask of the best Talisker whiskey. There you go. In 1925, Talisker was acquired by Distillers Company Limited, or DCL, in 1925. DCL then became part of Diageo. In 1928, they changed from triple distillation, which is more of an Irish style, right, to double distillation. Of course, Auchentoshan, further south, it still does triple distillation. 1960, the distillery was rebuilt after a stillhouse fire completely destroyed the distillery. That seems to be a common theme in the distillery business, right? And in fact, just over the last couple of years, we've seen distillery fires, and we've seen warehouses fall over. Ireland, of course, had all kinds of distillery fires. Anyway, it seems to be a common theme with distilleries, is they're very flammable. 5 exact replicas of the original stills were constructed to preserve the original Talisker flavor. In 1972, the stills were converted to steam heating, and malting floorings were demolished. So out of this 130 some odd distilleries, only 8 still do their own, have their own malting floor. And if I recall correctly, I think I heard this from Ralphie. I think there are only 3 distilleries that are still using fires rather than steam. One of them is Glenfarclas. One of them was Glenfarclas. I don't remember what the other one is. So it might be Glenfarclas and 2 others. I don't remember what they are. And I just remember Ralphie talking about that. So basically, imagine this was the bottom of the still, and if you tour Glenfarclas, you can go down below and get sort of an straight-on view of where it is. So this would be sitting like this, and you're heating this up from here. What that does, though, when you're heating up the still like that, a direct fire like that, you get this. It's almost like a sludge or buildup on the bottom of your still because it gets a little bit charred there. So you have to go in and sort of clean it. So by using another form of heating rather than a direct fire, you get, I think, a more even distribution of heat on the still, and you don't get that sort of after effect from the still. So one of the major reasons why people are shifting over from that. Hey, Jason Coates, long time no see, man. How you doing? Donner Pass Whiskey, how you doing, neighbor? Thanks for tuning in. Springbank still has direct heats. Yes, you're correct. In fact, I was there. You're absolutely right. The funny thing is I have in my head a picture of the stills that I was at and in front of, but I couldn't remember where is that picture in my head that I've been to, and you're absolutely correct. And it kind of figures Springbank and Ben Romack are 2 of the most old school way of production. So, I mean, if you think old school, it totally makes sense. You know, anything that's old school, you can probably figure that's the way Springbank's going to be doing things. But thanks for tuning in, man. You get a star. Get a star for the day, for the class. Alrighty. So now let's talk just a little bit about the production side. Okay, so Talisker's water comes from springs, which I'm not going to try to pronounce because then I'll get nasty comments down below trying to correct me how to pronounce it. It's just like knock, nan, sprague, but I'm sure that's incorrect. And I guess it means Hawk Hill, directly above the distillery via a network of pipes and wells. I know someone over there will try to correct my mispronunciation of Gaelic. The malted barley used in production comes from the Muir of Ord. The malt is peated to a phenol level of approximately, it's hard to read the way I've got it. It's 18 to 22 parts per million. That's actually sort of very moderate. 18 to 20, if I can read my typing there, 18 to 22. So most of your Islay distilleries, Ardbeg, so forth, typically around 55 to 65, somewhat a standard coming out of Port Ellen. So this is very moderate. A lot of some Highland distilleries that use a little bit of peat, they might be as low as like 3 to 5. So this is quite moderate. They have 5 stills, 2 wash stills, and 3 spirit stills. If you want to know the difference between a wash still and a spirit still, when you're looking at them, in Scotland, a wash still has these little windows in it. You can see the little bubbling up. But in the United States, distillers tend to buy just whatever still they've got, and that's what they use. Talisker has an unusual feature, swan neck line pipes. A loop in the pipes takes the vapor from the stills to the worm tubs. So some of the alcohol already condenses before it reaches the cooler. It then runs back into the stills and is distilled again. 5th point, and this is it. Talisker now has an annual output of 3.5 million liters of spirit, most frequently matured in American oak casks. Although, as we saw in my last video, they of course also use that Amoroso cask, which is an Oloroso that has some cream sherry added to it, which is made up with Moscatel or Pedro Jimenez. So they do use some sherry casks, but they're mostly a bourbon cask forward. All righty. Check on the comments real quick. Okay. So Alpha Crown says, according to the book I just read, Tobermory stopped in 2010 and Glengarry stopped after 1995. All right, so let's look at basic profiles of these whiskeys we're getting into. From Talisker, owned by Diageo, 10 years, American oak bourbon cask, 45.8% alcohol by volume. I love that. Very respectable ABV. So we're not getting the 40% ABV. Price, of course, this is relative to where you're at. Total Wine & More, where I live, it's $68. Total Wine & More is not consistent around the country. Sometimes I find a whiskey that's like really, really cheap where I live at Total Wine & More, and then in the outside of the country at another Total Wine & More, it can be like $40, $50 more. And then the Whiskey Exchange has it for 37.95 pounds. All right, so that's the 10-year-old. So there is one character I just picked it up more in the follow through. I was definitely picking it up on. So this is I'll be reviewing the 18. It definitely shows up in the 18-year-old. My review of this will be out on Sunday. And the previously reviewed whiskey, the Distiller's Edition, there is a trait that shows up in all these whiskeys, and I'm thinking this is a flag. This is a, hello, I'm from Talisker. I think it's that kind of a trait. Derek B., thanks for tuning in. He's got a Game of Thrones Talisker. You know what? The Game of Thrones bottles are now they're getting some clearance sales. So if you're in, I tried watching the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. I didn't like it. It was like, I don't know, take Lord of the Rings and turn it into a porn movie. I just didn't like it. It just, after 3 seasons, I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. But, so that's why I didn't get into the whiskeys. And a lot of my fellow whiskey tubers got into the whole Talisker thing. It just wasn't my stuff. But the funny thing is, while people were hoarding them or whatever, thinking it was going to be an investment, that these are so popular, the production was so high, they actually then had a re-release. And so there's plenty of it out there. So you can actually get some great deals. So people on Facebook, I've been seeing people picking up some great deals on these bottles. Dustin says the pepper note Talisker is totally in everything, and that's exactly where I was heading. Mm. On the 10, it was just a little late in terms of like when it goes, hello, I'm a pepper. Got 52 people watching. If you've not given a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. And if you don't like watching this, give it a thumbs down. I would say give it a this, but that button is not an option. Sorry. Anyway, so Jimmy T, let me know if you like the GOT Talisker. Does it have an age statement? I got a question because I don't know. I didn't follow the Game of Thrones. Does it have an age statement? And what's the ABV? Put it in the comment section. I'm kind of curious about it. See if I can find one. So that pepper note shows up about 3/4 of the way back. There is another note. So in terms of fruit, so when I'm describing whiskeys, it's fruit, flowers, spice, earth, and then other, right? Those are kind of the general categories, right? Peat can be kind of you can consider it sort of an earthy note. Wood, you might put into an earthy note. He says 45.8, no age statement from the GOT. Thank you very much. See, 45.8 seems to be like a standard for Talisker. That's cool. There's a distinctive toffee note. There's a nutty almond, but like a candied almond. What are the ones? They're individually individually wrapped with a gold wrap on it. Almond roca, like an almond roca character. Definitely a toffee note in there. Some people might describe it. I think some people could take it as a nuttiness there. There's a pepper in there. Some of which is a briny note. Currently, I'm getting a salty note, but not necessarily oceanic, right? I'm not getting iodine and medicinal notes or seaweed character to it, but I'm getting that salt and pepper in there. It's definitely a distinctive characteristic to it. The question I have is, and when I was going through the 18-year-old, I had a question about this, and it's like, I'm at the time I'm doing, maybe I'm studying Texas or I'm studying Ireland or I'm studying something else, and yet I hear something about some other, or maybe I'm focused on Isla, something else, and yet I hear a comment about Talisker or something else, and it sticks in my head, but now I can't remember where that comment was. It's because I feel like I'm burping. It's because I'm talking too much. I'm inhaling air while I'm talking. I remember someone talking about the pepper note and where they thought it was from. And I'm just like, I couldn't find, I was Googling, trying to find the information. And my memory, which isn't the best these days, I think it was Daniel Whittington that said it. Daniel, if you just happen to be watching, I'd love it if you chimed in here. Where does the pepper note? What I want to know is this a characteristic of their use of peat and how they use peat, or could it be coming from somewhere else? You can sometimes get similar notes from different sources. Typically, although not always, fruit notes come from the fermentation. Yeast, different kinds of yeast, the way you do your fermentations can bring about different fruity esters. But if you're using wine casks, obviously you can get fruity notes off a red wine cask, right? You might get strawberries, you might get dried fruit notes, black dates, fig, and raisins off of a sherry. So you can get fruit notes from other places. Spice, there are baking spices, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, clove. Those can come from oak. So the pepper. Is it the way they're distilling, something they're doing in distilling? Or is this a unique character that they get out of the peat that others aren't getting? I'm also getting a slight licorice character, like a black licorice. It's not a major. It's not like a rye, right? So you go. A rye, you drink a rye. It's not peated, but you can get a licorice note. So it's like a black licorice, but it's not as intense and acute as a rye. So I'm curious, and I don't know. I'm hoping I can find out from somewhere. Where does that pepper note come from? Currently, my current theory, and if someone comments later, and lets me know, Dustin says, worth noting, I get the pepper on bottles that were distilled as far back in 1979. So whatever it is has been consistent. Right. So my current theory is, and it's yet to be proven, it has to do with peat. I don't know. And I think it has to do with peat. I think it has to do with the way they're doing cuts and the way. So to back up, you've heard me say this in the 2 videos. You can have 2 whiskeys. This one, the barley was peated at 55, and this one was peated at 155, and yet on the palate, they're not any more peaty than the other. Why? Because you lose a lot of those phenols in the production process, including fermentation, distillation, how and doing your cuts. And you're going to lose a lot of them in how you're doing your cuts at the spirit bank. And then, of course, in aging as well. In the aging process, not all, but a lot of whiskeys will lose the intensity of the peatiness as they age. Or it's not that they're floating away. It could be that they're becoming more integrated into the whiskey, and so it's not as pronounced, right? I think that happens, or maybe both. My theory is, I think it has to do with the way they do their cuts and the elements of the phenols. Again, this is just theorizing. The elements of the phenols that are being maintained from the cuts are giving me a little bit of black licorice and are giving me a little bit of pepper, right? This is just at this point in time. This is the fun of whiskey. Yeah. I'm not into getting hammered. I'm getting drunk. Yeah, you can feel a little bit. You feel a little happy. It's the study. It's the interacting. It's the history. It's the people. It's the climate. It's the soils. It's all that is what fascinates me about whiskey. That's how I got into wine. I fell in love with the beauty of the wine country, the beauty of the rolling hills and the vineyards, and then fascinated by the production process, how all that comes up with so many different types of, thousands of different types of grapes and different combinations of grapes and making the wine and different choices in production that come out with fantastic wines. But that's even more intensified in whiskey, because whiskey, obviously being higher ABV, is as complex or can be more complex than even some of the best wines. And yet it's intensified. The volume's turned up to 11 in terms of its intensity of it. And I just find this fascinating. Where are they getting that from? A rye, fairly simple. It just comes from the rye, right? Rye can give you those. They can give herbal notes. I get root beer. You can get Dr. Pepper. You can get cola notes. You can get a pepperiness from that. You know what I mean. You get black licorice, which is why a lot of people don't like rye, because they don't like black licorice. I like it in small amounts. Anyway, so I'm getting a little bit of pepperiness. And so if I was being blinded and I got that pepperiness, although other whiskeys might have it as well, it just seemed to be a flagship or a long thing. Vanilla. Okay, so the advantage of talking so much is because I'm letting it air. This has now been open in the glass for an hour and 15 minutes, right? Now the vanilla is starting to say hello. Just hit myself in the nose. Vanilla showing up. Ron Gurgley, thank you much for hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thanks for showing up, man. The vanillas are showing up. I would say everything's now becoming much more integrated. When you first open, this happens with young wines. The aromas can seem over here and over here and over here. Now they become much more integrated like that. It's like someone readjusting the equalizer on your music, right? So everything's kind of coming together. Or you get a better conductor. You get a band, you get an orchestra playing without a conductor. They can kind of be a little wonky. get a really good conductor, and it brings them together, get them to play right. That's kind of what opening it does. Mike Bennett says, geeky, good term. Bullshit also works. It's true. If you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your bullshit. that would, if I was running for office, that would be my campaigning theme. Oh, BS, barley spirit. Oh, I don't know. All right. So there's a lot more vanilla on the palate. The peppery, man, it like lands. It's like a gymnast. You know, they kind of boing, 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 boing. You know, you see those gymnasts like that. That's what this whiskey does with the pepper. And it just sticks. And what sticks is that pepper. And that pepper note's really, really showing up. Jason Coates says, if you can't talk smart, talk fast. Exactly. If you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your bullshit. Really, really like this. Really, really like this. If I recall, I'm gonna go back and look what the price was for a full-size bottle. $68. $68. So again, take it in this context. Score-wise, what would I give it as a score? High 80s. I would say high 80s. Probably, again, put it in this context. I'm scratching myself, itching. Put in this context, I'm going to like 88. Why? I like the development. I like the finish. Mouthfeel is good. I'm glad they got the ABV. There is two things that I wish it had or didn't have. You just put it this way. I'm fairly certain it's got added coloring. They don't state that they got natural coloring, but I'm pretty sure that they've got added coloring. That would be my one thing. I don't like that. It doesn't upset me, but you know, why? You know, I just don't think you need it. Is there any filtering going on? Oh, you know what? Next thing I want to do, I almost forgot. Because I'm so busy talking, I'm going to put just a drop of water. I'm not trying to lower the ABV, just get it to respond. Let's put one more. No shaky. Just let it sit as it is. Wow. I would say the spices jumping up a little bit. Is there almost an herbalness jumping up a little bit? The black licorice is showing up now more. Fruit notes a little bit more. So it's mostly, I would say, the spice. There's a little herbalness and a little more black. I think that seems to be the main thing that pops up more with just a couple drops of water. Peter White, thank you much for tuning in, man. I think it's been a real long time since I've seen you on here. It's really, really nice. So as a preliminary, it's like if you've turned to like American grades, it's like a B plus. I would say it's like a B plus. Grades are 88 points. That's where I'm going with this. It's really, really, really nice. But I'm going to put a cover on it, and I will get back to this again later on this evening after the live stream. So I want to get into the Talisker Storm. So let me share my notes on the Talisker Storm, and then we'll get into that one. Here we go. All righty. So Talisker, 57 degrees north, single malt Scotch whiskey. Name is taken from the distillery's latitude, which I think is kind of cool. On the Isle of Skye, owned by, as previously said, by Diageo. It's a non-age statement. Okay, I know some people get really upset about that. Wish they had an age statement. It's at 57% ABV. So It's kind of cool. You know, they got the 57 ABV going along with the latitude, which they say is cask strength, right? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Typically, going into cask, 63.5% ABV. So that's what's kind of typical over there. So cask strength. So let's take it for granted. That's what it went in at. So it's going in at 63, 63.5, and coming out at 57 ABV. That's a pretty good drop, particularly for Scotland. How much time? This is a question. I don't have the answer for this. How much time would it take, since it's a non-age statement, to go from 63.5 down to 57? That's what the question is. My guess is it would take more than 10 years for Scotland, but that's I guess. It seems that that's no longer produced. If you search around on the internet, and this is one of the reasons why I bought this little gift set, because it seems to be no longer being produced. It's hard to find. However, because it's not completely gone off the face of the earth. If you search around, there are some places that has it. I found a place called Whiskey Marketplace here in the United States. Got it for $90. $90. And there's a place in the UK called Hard to Find Whiskey. And there's another place anywhere between 69 and 82 pounds. 69 and 82 pounds. So it still exists. It's still out there. If you hunt around for it, I would not, from the United States, I would not have anything right now shipped over, not just because of the tariffs, but because of shipping costs. Any whiskey you buy, particularly like I said, at auction, by the time you get it from the UK over here in the United States, you're almost doubling in price, guaranteed. All righty. So I read some sources that this was I read some sources that they thought it was a duty free. That was actually originally a duty free. Hey, Ron Gergley, thank you much for the $7. Ding. Teacher says every time a Glencairn rings, an angel gets its wings. Thank you very much. Alrighty. Yeah, Dustin says there's places in the UK you can. Well, not only that you can get cheaper in the UK, but you just can't get here. Period. When you go over to Scotland, or even into England in some places, and you think, yeah, gee, what bottles? How I'm gonna hunt and search and find a bottle of treasure to bring home. No, there's no hunting, no searching. You just point your finger, and there is one. And there's one, 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 and there's another one. There's another. There's so much over there. My main, I would say, recommendation is be very leery of the shops near Edinburgh Castle. The prices are going to be the highest. That's a tourist location. They have high rent, right? Because it's a tourist location, it's prime locale. And so the prices of the bottles are higher there. So I wouldn't go necessarily do a lot of shopping around the Edinburgh Castle. But outside of that, other places you can find some, like go to Cadenheads. There's a Cadenheads on Campbellton. And there's a Cadenheads actually right down the road from the Edinburgh Castle as well. Seem to be more reasonable in their prices and some great stuff. Anyway, lots of places out there to buy some fantastic whiskeys at reasonable prices. All right, so now, so this is my first time smelling. It has been in this glass for almost an hour and a half. Wow. Man. Why would they stop making this? I mean, I haven't even tasted it yet. There's a richness on the nose. Hey, Mark, thank you much for tuning in. There is a richness on the nose. Regional Roadie, thanks for tuning in. You're evoking great Royal Mile whiskey's memories. Yeah. There is a richness, a butterscotch. Scotch Comic, thank you much for tuning in. There's a richness, a butterscotch. When I was a kid, I don't think they make. I think it was actually a Jello brand. It was kind of cool. It was a Jello. You'd make this Jello. You'd put it in. You know, my mom would put in these little bowls. You know, and the top layer of the Jello would get hard, like almost like a candy bar. You made it, and it would get, and underneath would be the Jello pudding. So you made it. You put it in the thing, and so you had this thing of pudding, and you'd kind of break through the hard part, almost like a crust, but almost like a candy bar part. You'd kind of break through, and then underneath would be the soft, you know, the gooey Jello pudding part. Well, I have this, man, we're going back decades and decades and decades here. I remember having one of those that was butterscotch, and you'd kind of break through that, and you get into that. I don't know if they still make it or not, but that's kind of what I'm getting at the moment. A lot of vanilla, the peppers there, a lot of spices there. This has a little bit more smoke, peat smoke. I wasn't necessarily, of course, it was just, you know, just a sample bottling opening. I'm getting much more of a smoky character, something you more expect from a Highland peated whiskey than I was getting off these. A little more of a smoky character, a little bit more of a campfire. Now, if you saw my review of the Distiller's Edition, I got the sample one here. I should put it out just for looks. The Distiller's Edition is the peat kind of showed up as an afterthought, or it was kind of very subtle, very delayed, and it was a minor character where it's almost afterward you go, oh, there's some peat here. This is the opposite. That's called pudding skin. No, Brent. No. I know. Pudding can form a skin, but no, they actually add. Brent Klein. It was thicker than your normal pudding skin. It was like you didn't just push through it. It was like that. Seriously. So if this was pudding, you could take your spoon and you could go. It was that hard. It was like the top of a layer of a candy bar. So it wasn't just merely, you know, that kind of film that shows up. And so you would actually break it, not just kind of go through a little bit of a thin layer. It would actually break it and go into it. Anyway, going on about pudding. A lot more peat, more campfire. There's a butterscotch character in there. Yes, Scotch comic. Yes, like the hard sugar on a creme brulee. If you haven't had a creme brulee, they take this little torch thing and they go, and they torch the top of the creme brulee and it forms. Although, yeah, but very, very similar. Yeah, very similar, like a hard sugar layer on a creme brulee, and it cracks. But a creme brulee more cracks. But then this, you know, I'm getting into. But you're in the right neighborhood, right? Whiskey Ace, thank you much. Happy New Year. The vanillas are there. Like apples and pears, but baked. There's that toffiness there on the palate. Just on the first sip. Wow. That is nice. That is nice. Well, I'm saying it's really, really nice, and I'm like getting pissed off at the same time. I am. I'm getting pissed off because I'm getting pissed off. This is the 57 North. So I'm currently at this. This is the 57 North. This is the 57 ABV. In case you're turning in late, cask strength, and I'm getting pissed off because just on the first sip, I'm really liking this. And if they discontinued it, I'm going, why? All right. It's got a sweetness and dryness at the same. There's just like this moment of sweetness, and then it kind of goes dry. So, but I would say with the Distiller's Edition, much more sweetness, much more sweetness. This is drier. Baked apples, baked pears, toffee, a little bit of a butterscotch. There's a biscuit note, but not yeasty, Almost like a graham cracker. The vanilla. There's a moderate amount of peat, but it's nothing like anything from Islay or anything from anywhere else out in the Highlands. Very distinctive and very unique. Yeah, like a fancy vanilla pudding. Absolutely fantastic. Scotch Comics. What is the price? So I'll bring the slide up again. $90 if you can find it in the United States. If you can find it, this may be a discontinued whiskey. It seems to be hard to find. There is another place called Hard to Find. Excuse me, I'm burping here. Hard to Find Whiskey, 69.9 pounds over in the UK. So I'm giving both US and UK dollars. So, I remember, the funny thing is, and you never know when something's going to disappear, right? I remember seeing this at the store, seeing it go, you know what I mean? You see a bottle, maybe one of these days I'll get around to it. You do that kind of a thing. Yeah, that's cool. You know, you're not buying everything in the store. And now you go, oh, crap. I wish I could go back in time and grab one of those, That's what I'm experiencing right now. That's what I'm going to, there's a gazillion whiskeys out there. If you miss something, there's something else out there. You know what I mean? You're not really missing out, but still, it is sad if they really have discontinued it. My hope is they bring this back because this is absolutely fantastic. Jason Coates says, story of my life, because it is this is really, really fantastic. Yeah. So Jake Boss says, absolutely. Whiskey hunting, and the best places to go whiskey hunting are places that don't put their inventory online. And people who don't know what it is they've got. And you find dusties, the bottles with dust on it, hidden here, hidden there, there. Poke around, look at the shelf, see what's behind another bottle, something like that. I did not know it coming here to the Sacramento area of California. There are a lot more whiskey shops here than I ever found in the Bay Area. And they're smaller, independent, and they don't put their inventory online. So there's Roseville, Sacramento area seems to be an undiscovered hunting place to go, to find treasures, because there are some stuff around here. Of course, with the internet, people can look up, what they've got, and they can know what they've got. They're not necessarily be cheap, but if you know what you're looking for, keep your eyes open and go out there and look around. Anyway, so what I get again, this is context. The context is essentially a neck pour, first experience. Haven't spent a lot of time with it. To put it in that context, my views could go up and down. If I had a full size bottle and was going to spend some more time with it, but I would go like 89 points, 89. So I like the 10. I like the 89. I'm almost ready to go like a 90 points. In fact, hold on. Let me check the finish. So when I'm scoring first one sip, okay, I'm focusing on entry. Focus on entry. What do I think about that? Focus on mid palate. Another sip, focus on mid palate. Focus on finish. Another sip, I might focus on, okay, how is it doing in the transitions, right? I might have one sip where I'm just paying attention to feel. For this moment, just ignore the aromas and flavors. How does it feel? And so I'm getting different senses of the whiskey by focusing on different parts. It's kind of like listening to an orchestra or band. Right now, I'm just going to focus on the drummer. How good is this drummer? How good is this guitarist? How good is this piano player? How good is this, you know what I mean? Or bass player. The bass player is very easily ignored in a band, right? Or an orchestra. How good is the first violinist, right? You can kind of focus your ears to focus on just one element of the orchestra or of a band. And you kind of do that with whiskeys as well. Focus just one particular aspect of the overall structure. I watch sometimes I watch movies. I do this all the time with movies. I'll watch the same movie over and over and over again. The first time I watch a movie, I'm trying to get what's the story? What's the big picture of the story, right? If it's a good movie, I'll watch it again. If it's a crappy movie, I'm not going to bother with it again. If I get a general overall sense this is a good movie, I'll watch it again. I'll pay attention to camera angles, lighting, character development, script, and those kind of things, right? And if it's a movie I really, really like, I'll continue watching. And every time I watch it, I'll look for something different and different nuances and different things to it, right? Good movies. In fact, there's been some movies I've watched them like 3 times in one weekend, right? Just to pay attention. Right now, I've been a big fan of The Mandalorian. I'm not going to give any spoilers here. I probably watched. There's 2 seasons. I've watched every episode at least 10 times. It's really, 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 really good. Peter White says the Talisker 15 cast strength is better version of the 57 North. Okay, I'll keep an eye out. Peter White, thank you very much. I'll keep an eye out for it. I'll look around for it. Is a better version of the 57 North. All right, everybody write that down. Pay attention. 57 North. I'll keep my eyes out for them. Thank you very much. Jake Boss says, so I had to go back and get the second bottle of Dalmar Cigar Malt. It's an amazing whiskey. I've never had it. There's a local shop here that has it. I don't know how much they're charging for it. I've never bought a Dalmor. I've never bought a Dalmor. I've heard good things about the cigar malt. I'm probably going to have to pull the trigger and buy it because it's probably one of those whiskeys where once in your life you should probably buy it. So really, really liking this. I think it's really, really, really good. The one thing. Oh, Mike Bennett says save your money. Why is it a big bottle of E150? I don't know. Jason Fisk, long time no see. Thanks for tuning in. I like the pepper note, but sometimes I think the pepper note can be a distraction. You know what I mean? It grabs too much attention. And that's kind of what's on the finish is a lot of a peppery note. It's not bad. I like it, but it's a little bit too much. And I think you could also be in the mood for a pepper note, right? Like rye. Like I have very few ryes, but when I'm in the mood for a rye, I want a rye, right? I have a really, really good one from Texas from Miami Green, a rye that I really, really like. So I really, really like it. It's the finish. It's the finish being, there's a little bit of a smoke as well. You know what I mean? Like I don't smoke like cigarettes, but imagine if you went and you kind of exhale and there was that puff of smoke at the end. I used to do the little that kind of stuff. But that's been a long time. That was back when I was in high school. You know that stuff. You end up coughing and laughing like an idiot. There's a little bit of that puff of smoke as well as that pepper, but I really, really like it. So for me, structurally, again, this is a preliminary sort of thing to get me past the 80 and get me a little further along. It's the finish, the main thing. But other than that, it's mostly at the front and the middle of this whiskey and on the nose. Really, 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 really like this whiskey. Just on the nose alone, I really prefer the 57 North over the 10. But the one I'm most in love with thus far has been that Distiller's Edition. I really, really liked it. And my review of this one should be out by Sunday. I try to do 2 normal videos a week. So I post, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but Corrupt. Thank you much for tuning in. Sorry, don't know how to pronounce his first name. So what I'm trying to do is 2 regular full-size videos, 10 to 15 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood, Wednesdays and 1 on a weekend, mostly now on Sundays. I'm doing 5 of these short videos, and the short videos, sometimes they're informative, sometimes I'm just trying to be funny, so I'm playing around. You know, it's sort of an experimental mode, but I've been playing around with that. So I'm doing those five a week, and then one live stream, the Friday night live stream. So I'm content 7 days a week, really, really enjoying it. So things I want to do in the future. Now that I have these, if you didn't see them on tune earlier, so a viewer, I met up with a subscriber today, and he gave me two of these. Hey, Phil, probably Phil and Depot, at least Phil, Whiskey Mystery. Thank you for tuning in. I just got these. Did you? I think you guys have these as well. So a viewer, I met up with a viewer. He contacted me, sent me an IM, and he gave me two of these. So a really, really, really cool gift, and I've been wanting these, and I hadn't mentioned them last week. So yeah, it really, really, really cool. Oh, you do? I thought so. Looking forward to trying these out. Really, really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I probably want to get more of them. Probably like maybe half a dozen of these. Really, 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 really cool. And here's the thing. I don't know how much these cost, but it's not the money. It's that a viewer said, "Hey, Erik," because I had the electric tin and the Ardbeg tin next to each other. And I said I wouldn't do them blind against each other because of the color difference. The color of the electric tin was too noticeable. So I just it was like an offhand thing. It said, I need to get some of those blind glasses. And so he heard that, and he was thoughtful, ordered them, and then gave them to me. And it's more of the time and the thought than it is the value of the thing. You know what I mean? And I was really, really blown away, really, really taken back by that someone it takes that kind of a thought to give you something. It's just really, really fantastic. So, all right. So we've gone on a little bit longer than I normally have. I'm trying to keep these around for about an hour so that on people watching on the replay, it's not going on too long. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Right at about 68 viewers. Wow. Thank you much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for the one who sent the super chat earlier. Really, really enjoying this whiskey. It's going to spend some more time with them. And stay tuned for Sunday when I put out the video of the Talisker 18. All righty. Looking forward to it. Okay. So next week, same place, same time, another live stream at 5 o'clock. And looking forward to it. And let's go out with a little bit of rock and roll.